Hey, what's good, family? So the South took over rap. Did it ever give it back? Grown man bars, y'all. Tap in. Welcome to Grown Man Bars. Welcome to Grown Man Bars. I'm your man, Chad, the nerdiest of rap nerds out there, and probably the most OG rap nerd there is. With me, as always, is a man so tough when he does push-ups, he doesn't push himself up, he pushes the earth down. Big Absoloot, tell him what's good, cousin.
Going down, family. Excited. Damn, it's healthy. I'm always excited on show day. Very healthy today. Let's get into it.
I always try to say some silly shit at the beginning in every episode because to make BA smile, because BA's got a little bit of Ice Cube in him. He's that resting cube face. I got it myself.
Hit him with the Kanye.
Yeah, I get that a lot, man. People are like, you look mad. I'm like, I am rarely ever mad. My face it just looks like, it's just my face. But I will say this, people telling you that you look mad all the time, it pisses you off.
Yeah. You want to tell you what's crazy that you bring this up? Today this happened to me, and I ain't gonna stay on it long. So today I'm a Morton meeting, and I was talking to a friend on the phone, and I was like, being in the veteran category, I couldn't wait because my mouth was already bad, and now I don't have to have a conscience about the things that I say. But there is one thing I hate about being a veteran in veteran status. I am no longer unapproachable to white people. Now, it isn't because I'm a mean person, but I used to have an aura that didn't allow you to just say hello to me first. You had to wait for an opening. And now that I'm in vet status with all this gray, I feel like they think I'm one of them old dudes from the movies with all the wisdom, because I stopped at the store to grab me a sweet tea, and this Middle Eastern guy was having some trouble with his car. He didn't speak very good English, but he had something on his dashboard. He didn't know what it meant. And out of 27 people that walk in and out the store, he thought I was the person to ask for help. And not just lean in the window and point. He had me open the door and look in his vehicle. I don't want to be that dude. I never, ever wanted to be that dude. I helped my man. It was an airbag situation. He went on his way. Shouts out.
Yeah, so just for reference, everybody, Big Absoloot does not want to be a good human being. That is what he's saying.
I have zero tolerance for good human being nature. Again, if I give you the opening, I am firm if I speak back. Cool. But if I don't speak and I don't know you, you don't need to break the ice with me. You don't need to feel like now is the time. Keep it pushing, you keep it pushing.
There's a little bit of truth about Big Absoloot. All right, y'all, so we're going to talk about the whole point of this episode. So we took y'all from 88 to 94. Now, 88, we said, set the stage for hip-hop to go global. In 94, which is what it started doing. Now, we're only going to move ahead basically a few years, because even in 94, the albums we talked about in 94, Outkast dropped in 94, Texas was already dropping, the West Coast was already dropping. So hip-hop was spreading, but let's be very clear. I want to make sure I give New York a shout out. When we talked about hip-hop in the early 80s, then to 88, and then to 94, we are talking mostly New York. We're talking 95% New York. If you noticed in that summer of 88, there were, 1-2 albums that did not come out of New York? So everything around hip-hop was very New York central. It was centered on New York, and it spread from there. Now, people were doing hip hop everywhere early, and by the late 80s, we've talked about this in other episodes. New Orleans was doing it, Atlanta was doing it, Houston was doing it, the West Coast was doing it, Chicago was doing it, Memphis was doing it. It's just that they were all local, and they weren't getting any national play because their sound did not sound like the New York sound. And that just wasn't what people were listening for at the time. And I want to start with a little story cipher for you. This is the year after the last episode, 1995, at the Source Awards, Madison Square Garden, New York City. The nominations are announced for Best New Rap Group. It's in New York City, so New York is heavy in there.
V.
But 1996 is also when Death Row was really about to hit its peak. So the West Coast is in there heavy as well.
Out on bail, fresh out of jail, California, dreaming. We up in there.
And now I don't need to tell y'all, if y'all from our era, I don't need to tell y'all that there was a lot of tension in the room, a lot of what we call rubbernecking, a lot of long stares, a lot of neck flexing. But when the award got announced, the winner was from Atlanta. They got up on stage, and as they were walking on stage, the heavy New York crowd,
I got you. Boom.
Hate. Basically, they got hated on and booed. Now, Big Boy got up and just kept it on the level. Thank y'all. Appreciate everything. Basically what you would expect an athlete to say after a game. Coach speak. Just those usual terms. Andre said he was nervous. He was feeling the tension and he was feeling the frustration. He was nervous being up there on that big stage, being in New York, but he said he was also pissed off. And what he said was, quote, "But it's like this though. I'm tired of folks, them closed-minded folks. It's like we got a demo tape and don't nobody want to hear it. But it's like this. The South got something to say. That's all I got to say." And that, look, I'm not saying that changed, him saying that changed anything in itself. Nobody went, "Oh, Andre's pissed off. We better start listening to Southern rap." That is not what happened. I use that as the jump off point because from then on, the South pretty much took over hip hop. Let's move on to what we call the Southern Takeover. This is something, BA, I know you'll agree with me on this because me and you have talked about this a long time ago offline. What also happened in 1996 after the Source Awards and something that happened in early 1997 were the deaths of Tupac and Biggie. There was a big conference with Russell Simmons, a lot of the leaders in hip hop, and Louis Farrakhan, and they all decided to get together and kind of work on the violence in music. Audiences were also tired of that because that East Coast, West Coast beef was, like we always say about beef, it's fun until it's not. So gangster rap had been going strong for 8 years. And I think audiences were they were looking for something new, and that left a big opening. And BA, I want you to explain this to everybody. You said this before when we were on the Southern Rap episode. Why is it, when I asked you why Southern rap music is more feel-good music, why people gravitate more towards feel-good music, do you remember the answer you gave me?
At the club.
Yeah, can you explain that?
So in the South, there's three ways to bring music. And I use this loosely because if you're like in South Carolina, North Carolina, answer number one changes to the beach. But it's Sunday at the park or at the car wash. Then it's, of course, it's the strip. Wherever the strip is, whatever you riding, it's the strip. And then finally, it's the strip club. It's the club, ladies and gentlemen. But the strip club is the after party to every other party. So artists in the South weren't worried about airplay because everything you play in the strip club, you don't play on the radio, no way. If you was hit, you had to be hitting in all three of those categories.
Plus, while you're on that, they were also in the Bible Belt where radio play was going to be harder to come by for rap than it was in a place like New York City.
Because you really only have one or two stations with a limited playlist to begin with. And one of those stations is national. So they're only playing what's nationally available in the rotation. The other one may be a little more regional. And so you may hear a couple artists you don't normally hear on the national set. But again, they're more friendly, more radio available. In the club, you play what you want to play. Because in the club, real people in the club, real life happening in the club. So if they gravitate to what you're doing, it's working. So then, of course, you go from the strip club to the regular club. And if it knocks in the club, you got to hit.
Explain to everybody, if in your opinion, the difference between what New York was doing, since rap was so heavily New York at that time, versus what the South was doing, and how the South could have filled that hole.
I guess the classic answer is you want to break music, you go wait all day outside the radio station and you beg to get on the listening list for whoever.
Some old white dude in sweatpants.
Yeah, like you really used to have to go through a Sidney Bernstein. Like you really had to get through these people to get your record to the DJ. So the South bypassed all that because you ate breakfast at 4:30 last Saturday at the dude that could break your record at the strip club because you know what time he get off his set. Junebug and them spin records down at the Rusty Titty every night. You know what I'm saying? So as long as you get a Junebug, hey dog, hey, spin this for me, yo. You know what I'm saying? And I tighten you up with this, you know what I'm saying, a sack, or whatever it is. Junebug spin it, and the dancers, the reaction of the dancers determine how much rotation you get. If the dancers are feeling what you got, then they want to hear it, they want to dance to it, they want it played. Lord forbid you get one of the main features in Magic City or something like that. That's the song they pick at the height of the night, Saturday at 1:30, 2 o'clock. They doing their thing to your song. It's a hit.
Two things, man. First, you said all that, and all I heard was Rusty Titty. Second, you did forget one place where you had to get your record spinning was the roller skating rink.
So Saturday night, you at the strip club. Sunday afternoon, you gotta go talk to the skate rink DJ. The skating rink DJ had more power than anybody on radio. Because Atlanta especially, some spots in Houston, some spots in Louisiana, because yes, in New Orleans, they roller skate too. Not as heavy, but still. In Atlanta especially, if it was knocking a skate town during skate wars, where you got the skate crews in there, let a skate crew that do their thing choose your song to do a routine to, and it is a wrap. Everyone will know you by 8:30 p.m. Everybody.
The whole point of all of that is to say that it was feel-good music. It was music. Yeah. They wanted music that appealed to people rather than creating their own music. Like, I'm not saying that it wasn't their own music. What I'm saying is they created it, I think, more with the audience in mind, as opposed to New York rappers who were just like, I'm gonna make the kind of rap that I think I need to make. Like, they wanted the Southern rappers, they wanted that feedback from the audience.
Yeah, they didn't shy away from their truth. That's the funny thing, whether you look at Houston, you look at Louisiana, you look at Miami, you look at Atlanta, you look at the Carolinas, you look at Mississippi. It doesn't matter. When you look at Southern hip hop, the one thing that is predominant is the blues, but ain't nobody sad no more, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like a friend of mine from Louisiana who used to DJ, Jerry Kane, shout out Jerry Kane, DJ Kane. He used to always say to me that the best music slaps like a Negro spiritual. That's how you feel on the inside, but it don't make you sad about it. Like you rooted, but you not sad. That's why a lot of Southern music, chant music, they call it, snap music. Like you get these things that make you wanna, the king, baby, the march. You get these things, right, that make you wanna get it. I seen this little AI thing where it had pictures of Martin Luther King marching, and he was marching to Bia, why you acting like as disrespectful as there was, I was in that though.
So I'm outside of the club and you think I'm a punk.
But you gotta feel that though, and that's what the South was. They did that very unapologetic. Like you play your music at the strip club, absolutely. Every Saturday, I sure do.
And I think that started to fill a gap that people wanted. They wanted more of that feel-good music. And what happened was it started springing up with really intelligent moguls in a lot of different places. Like I'm about to name some of these places, and the guys behind this were super sharp. So you had Rap-A-Lot down in Houston with Jay Prince. Jay Prince has a reputation I don't need to tell anybody
about Steve. Don't ask me about Jay.
You had Suave House in Memphis. You had No Limit and Cash Money working out of New Orleans. And both of them built their own like systems. Yeah, they built systems, and
they had farm systems. That's what I refer to Cash Money and No Limit. They had farm systems because they found a formula and ran it to perfection.
Even one thing that is it's a pretty well-known story with Baby, but Baby went to Universal and worked out his own distribution deal with them. Basically, Baby was like, look, I'll put up a certain amount of money. We'll split it, my percentage, your percentage. And so he worked it out. And BA told y'all before, P went out west and worked with the independent guys out west to learn how they were doing it. And he took a lot of that down to New Orleans. But they were both doing the same things. They were both doing genius work at the time with crews, which we've talked about. We don't have crews that much anymore. But every time somebody in the crew did an album, most other people on the crew were featured on that album. And I know that made me buy albums, because as much of a disappointment of a human being as Mystical might be to me at this point, at that time as a rapper, if Mystical was on an album,
I want to hear it. Every time.
I bought Silk albums for the Mystical feat.
I bought Charge It to the Game for It Ain't My Fault.
And I promise you, there is no other reason I would have purchased a Silk album. The only way I would purchase a Silk album is if God would have came down and said, this is the only way you get through the gate.
The path to me. The path to me.
If heaven was the path to Silk, I would have been a fan.
But what you said is so true, because we've seen other labels do a scope of what P did. Def Jam used to do that. Def Jam would take a veteran artist, having an album coming out, and put new acts that they were breaking or freshman acts on the label, at least on one song or one feature, and let that senior dude introduce them to the world. No Limit did that, but No Limit did it in such a caveat that to me was extremely dope, because it used its heavy hitters, not sparingly. It used its heavy hitters to push all motion forward. So everybody's album, you got a Mia Fiend, or Mystical Mia, or Mystical Snoop Fiend. Like on everybody's album, you got one of them major waiters.
But P was also like a head coach, a head football coach too, because he went with the hot hand. It wasn't always your turn or always this person's turn. It's like everybody's feeling, that's who we running with. And I think because P understood there was a limited amount of time you're going to be able to do this. I think 50 Cent's one of the other artists that I noticed that did that with his music. Like, they understood there's only a limited amount of time that you're going to be this hot. So let me go ahead and just get everything I can get while I'm this hot.
If I got a 3-year run, let me start get it.
So another thing though that came with all those moguls popping up everywhere else was the versatility of sound. The South didn't just have one sound. New York doesn't just have one sound. The West Coast doesn't just have one sound. Houston and Dallas are very different, as BA will tell you. Everybody doesn't.
I struggle to see if they're in the same state. It's crazy out here.
You had Outkast with their basically lyrical artistry. They were probably the more lyrical artist from the South. But you had Dungeon Family with their production and the Atlanta funk. Because funk runs all the way through hip hop. So they had their Atlanta funk. Houston pushed the chopped and screwed with DJ Screw that you cannot ignore, because
shout out Screw. Man, I cannot wait till we get to the mixtape era. We really can get y'all really into what happened with that situation. But if you didn't have a screwed up tape, I don't know. Hey, you just was missing the boat. Period.
New Orleans, they had Bounce. That Bounce had been around New Orleans since like 83? They started.
Yeah, Bounce was hard. Yeah.
But then they had the No Limit and Cash Money machines. Miami. Now, we all knew Miami was bass and party music. We used to just call it Miami booty music.
Miami bass music. Shout out Luke. Shout out 2 Live. Miami bass. Come on. Come on, what?
Because you
JT Money, shout out.
You only went to Miami for one thing, and they made sure the music matched it. Hey, I gotta say something too, man. Y'all can hate on JT Money all y'all want. JT Money had bars.
Yeah.
Who they would?
Let's shout out JT Money.
Yeah,
shout out Poison Clan.
So like BA said, man, Southern rap thrived in places where people wanted music they could dance to, ride to, and vibe to. Because like we talked about, as dope of an album as Illmatic was, Illmatic's not something you play when you rolling down the strip on a Friday night. When you were doing that back in that day, you couldn't do that to Illmatic because everybody like, nah, man, I'm not trying to think about the harsh reality of the world tonight. I'm drunk right now, okay?
I mean, it's crazy. You listen to Illmatic doing some of the most Illmatic, that's some of the most Illmatic things you could possibly be doing. Chopping it, bagging it, shooting it. It's in you, and it was a song on that album. It was a track for all of them.
Yeah, but BA said too, the strip clubs like Magic City in Atlanta.
Oh, shout out.
Once things got bumping in the clubs, that's where the radio said, oh, they bumping in the clubs, we might as well put them on the radio. And so that's how that happened. It proved, just to wrap this up, it proved that what Andre said in 1996, it wasn't just bullshit. It wasn't just some dude being mad that he got booed over winning an award. It was some dude telling the truth. It was some dude saying, hey, we do have something to say. And he was right, because they took the crown, and we can talk about that later, but I'm not sure they've completely given it back.
I think the statement was a huge statement, but I think it was the reaction of the statement that made the statement more true. Like when he said the South got something to say, what he was saying is, you're about to have to acknowledge you're listening to us. It's not even so much that we're about to be so loud with what we're doing. Radio, video, media, award shows, moguls, labels, yeah. Ignoring us is no longer going to be a thing. You're going to have to hear us.
He said, we've got a voice and you're about to hear it.
Yeah.
So let me switch it over to the absolute truth. BA, this is one of my favorite segments, the absolute truth. So Big Absoloot, tell me how you feeling about this Southern takeover. What strikes you as some of the more interesting aspects of it?
So John and the East Side Boy.
3-6 Mafia
music, but what we didn't have was complete, unadulterated attention on a movement until the Crunk music happened. Crunk was the only Southern sound that united the South. Chopped and Screwed was close, but you was getting Crunk in South Carolina. You was getting Crunk in Miami. You was getting Crunk in Houston, Oklahoma City, Shreveport, Mississippi, Birmingham, Kentucky. You was getting Crunk in Nashville.
Let me tell you something. When Let's Go dropped, when he sampled that Ozzy Osbourne, we were all going nuts on that one.
Get it, baby. That's all right there. Hey, but what that did was there was no longer, hey, we would like to get some airplay. Like what I said earlier about Bia Bia. Tracks like Bia Bia. Tracks Nook If You Book.
Yo, the shit they let Lil Jon got so popular that the shit the FCC let him get away with was amazing. He got away with skeet.
How about the video shoot with the gasoline can? How about that? Where they was drinking liquor out the gasoline can. How about that? Skeet would have, look, no disrespect. Cool J, you could have never released a song with skeet in it, right? Shout out Cube, DJ Quick 40. Anybody on the West, you could have never got away with that.
I was a radio DJ at that time at the height of Crunk, and I was amazed. We always had right above the board, we always had the dirty 7 words, which it always fucked me up because don't put the words I can't say right in front of my face. But we always put them. I was like, here's the dirty 7 up here, but Lil Jon can say skeet all day long. And I was like, somebody, when the old white dudes at the FCC figure out what that means, they are going to be upset they let that slide.
Crunk and Chopped and Screwed, we have so many influences in the South. But to me, the biggest door openers was Crunk and then Houston's Chopped and Screwed movement. Because what that did was that put Houston on the map in a different way. Because now you take songs that everybody know, you chopped and screw them, and you may add a verse from a local artist. You slowed it down, and now you have something totally different. It killed me to see artists from the West, from the Midwest. Everybody wanted at least one. Chopped and Screwed was auto-tune before auto-tune. Like you wanted one song, Chopped and Screwed.
And then you had trap music.
And then you had
you talked about that last week about how big trap was. Like, let me ask you this question. So by 2005, we had Lil Wayne, T.I., Jeezy, Outkast, and UGK at the top, with Scarface still there. Was the South running hip-hop more than New York ever did?
Yes. Now, I know y'all don't kill us in the comments, but at least me. Yeah. But what I'm saying is this, come for me if you will, but
bring
let's
receipts.
think about it.
Bring receipts.
Let's think about it for a second. Grab several seats and let's think about it. Lil Wayne, Chris, T.I., Pimp C, Bun B, Big Boy, Master P were some of the most sought out artists to do collabs with artists outside of the South on their song. You know why?
Do tell.
Because the wave of the motion of the South was a tsunami. You couldn't hold it in Houston anymore. You couldn't hold it in Atlanta. You couldn't hold it in the boot. It broke out.
So everybody remembers Big Pimpin' with Jay-Z and UGK, and everybody's heard the stories about this. So I saw another barbershop interview with Bun B, and he was talking about Pimp C, who I'm gonna talk about here shortly. He's one of my favorite rappers just as a personality. But so when Jay-Z's A&R people came to Bun B and UGK about doing the Big Pimpin' song, Bun B was excited about it because he was like, that's going to take us to the MTV crowd.
That's what it meant.
Yeah, he said, that's going to be, he said, I knew what it meant. That was going to be national exposure.
He said, Pimp was like straight hard chart.
Yeah, he said, Pimp C did not want to do it. He was like, nah, man, fuck this. That sounds like a bubblegum track.
Yep, straight Pop-Tart charts. I'm out.
And he said he didn't want to do it. Then he said, fine. And Bun B said, I had to talk him into it. And eventually he said, fine, but I'm only doing 8 bars. He said, I'm only doing 8 bars.
Not even a full 16, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody who knows how to write rap, a 16 is considered a verse. He did half of a verse.
And the interviewer asked him, he said, did you tell Jay-Z about this? He said, I didn't have to. He said, it was pretty clear how Pimp C felt about it. He said, look, I'm not saying there was any drama or anything. He said Jay-Z knew what he was getting into with Pimp C. So yeah, there was no word spoken about it or anything. He said everybody did what they did. He said, but Jay-Z knew. He said it was clear how he felt about it.
Just look at the video. Like if you think the way Pimp felt about Big Pimpin' was over after they dropped the track, it was not. Look at the video. Everybody else looked like they on a boat, on a cruise, to a remote island. What Pimp have on? Oh, bird shit. Because me, period. Point blank.
And what they say when they were like, hey man, we down in the islands. Why are you wearing a fur coat? Because I'm Pimp C.
Fuck Pimp C.
1, 2. All right, let me ask you one more question, man. Who deserves more of the credit for the Southern Takeover? Do you give it to the artists like Outkast, Lil Wayne, and Scarface? The producers like Manny Fresh, Organized Noise, DJ Screw? Or do you give it to the moguls like Master P, Lil J, Suave House? Who do you think deserves more of the credit?
It's tricky. The unintelligent mind would instantly go to the artist. They're the name, they're the face. The money would say go with the money, because without the money, you can't really do that. If you don't have a Jermaine Dupri, you don't have a Lil J, you don't have a Suave House or Master P or Baby and Slim. If you don't have that, then you don't really have what you need. But I think it was the production. I think the production made the South's music undeniable because it allowed you to play it anywhere. And any artist knows, you and I both have been in studios and tried to make songs and made songs. And try to figure out what was hitting and what wasn't hitting. And no matter how thug you are, no matter how street you are, no matter how gangster you are, whatever it is you call it, everybody knows that you have to make a radio album to really break major. You have to have at least one album that can be put on the mass media circuit to get you out there. And what the South did was they didn't change what they talked about. They didn't even change how they talked about it. What they changed was the tempo of the music in which they produced. I remember laughing because Chris Rock had a comedy segment and he was like, who was singing Skeet Skeet the most? Women. Oh, Skeet, they talk about me. But that was when Bling, I remember when Bling came out. You would think it was about jewelry, not about the shine of the car, not about the shine of the rims and just how you're shining in general, teeth, whatever, right? Make them say, no one knows what it is, but you couldn't help but to go, what happened? You can't hold it. Blow the whistle. You can't. These songs talk about ridiculous things. Like Blow the Whistle is a skate town anthem. It was made for the roller rink because the guy who controls the tempo of the roller rink has a whistle.
I think I agree with you too, especially when you break it down like that. I wasn't sure what I thought about it, but when you break it down like that, like you can have the money behind it and you can have the artists that can do it, but if you don't have the sound that people want to listen to, they're not going to listen to it. And we've seen that in a lot of other areas. We've seen a lot of rappers that had great lyrics, like Cannabis, that never could find a home with production that fit him, and his career really suffered for it. That and a huge loss he took to somebody else, but that can happen. Last question, real quick. We've already talked about this, but do you think the South ever gave it back, or do they still have it right now? Because I don't know. For me, I don't know that I would say I don't know that anybody has it, but if you ask me to give you a region, if you just say, hey, you got to tell me a region that's got it, I would still have to say the South.
I would agree. I would say the South because outside of the West Coast, the Midwest, mostly shy. Like DMV music is DMV music. It's go-go. Lyrics are good, artists are good, production's great. Nobody's going to argue Timbo, Neptune, like nobody's going to argue that.
And the West Coast is hard to argue because the West Coast just doesn't give a fuck what anybody else thinks about outside.
True, and the reason why I brought up the West Coast more so than the Midwest is that even though the Midwest has different pockets, California has 3 pockets, right? You got North Cal, you got Southern Cal, and then you got the Bay. And everybody knows the Bay sound is different from every other part of California. But the South is the only, like it or not. Don't have me pull out a Ric Flair up in here. Like it, but learn to live with it, because it's the best thing. But the South is the only one whose music is, I don't want to say evolving, because an evolution seems like a better version of a previous version. So that's the wrong word. It's progressing because the South's music is shape-shifting. It's the only region of music that has shape-shifted every 10 years. So we went from Outkast, trap, crunk, snap, mumble, drip. All of those styles have multiple platinum artists in them. All of those styles have 2 or 3 artists that are at the top of their game in their era in that style.
We're going to move along to another segment that I like, that us old heads like, era versus era. Get ready. But this time we got a tough one, BA. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about this one. Put it down in the comments and let me know, because this is going to be a tough one. Going to be some healthy discussion on this one. Era versus era. The 2005 South versus the 1995 East. Let me just lay out who's going against each other here. So 1995 in the East, we had Raekwon, Only Built for Cuban Links. Mobb Deep, AZ Do or Die. So y'all know what I'm going to say about that one. Smith & Wesson, The Shining, OC Word Life, ODB came out, Jizza, Liquid Swords. Big L, Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous. DOS Effects, Hold It Down. Fat Joe, Jealous One's Envy. Group Home, Living Proof. KRS-One. Onyx, All We Got Is Us. Mike Geronimo, Capone, and Noriega. That's all coming from the East in 1995. The South in 95 had Young Jeezy, Let's Get It Thug Motivation 101. T.I. Urban Legend, Bun B Trill. Paul Wall, Slim Thug, Mike Jones, and Chameleonaire all dropped solo albums. Lil Wayne dropped The Carter 2. Juvie dropped Reality Check. Big Timers dropped Big Money Heavyweight. 3-6 Mafia, Most Known Unknown. Pitbull was down in Florida killing it. Trick Daddy had Thug Matrimony, Married to the Streets in 04, still strong in 05.
Yes, sir.
So that's a heavyweight, 2 heavyweight list, BA. If you had to pick one, which one you leaning on?
Oh, it's 05, clearly. And the reason why I say it's clear is for 3 albums. Just 3. Urban Legend by T.I. Urban Legend. Urban Legend by T.I.
You can't count it twice.
Urban Legend by T.I. Lil Wayne's The Carter 2, right? But to me, the most important album of this list in the South really was Bun B's Trill. It was the first time we got Bun, just Bun, right? Now but that was not his debut album, but when I say the first time we got Bun, is we got to hear the non-UGK Bun B on Trill. We got to hear what Bun B became and still is to this day, right? Now, there's no disrespect. Mobb Deep the Infamous was one of my favorite albums all time. Love that album. OC, Word Life, one of my favorite albums. You know what I'm saying? Of course, we talk about Do or Die all the time. Not even Raekwon only built for the Cuban Links. Look, I like Raekwon. That was the only Raekwon album I've ever bought.
If we didn't say that album was great, the comments would fill up. So,
but don't get me wrong. ODB, Jizza, and of course the Cow we talked about on the last joint. Everybody knows how I feel about this particular album because I feel like it was the last Fat Joe sighting we've seen. Jealous One's Envy.
The last real Fat Joe, yeah.
That was real Fat Joe. All of those albums, for the most part, are a step up from the previous, for most of them. The reason why I brought up Urban Legend by T.I. is when you see me in the street, remember, you don't know me. This is a focused T.I. And to me, that maturation, that era, reintroduced what Atlanta trap music would go on to be that Main Street would know it for, right? But I just really think 05 was very difficult to beat because I feel like Wayne got his respect with the Carter 2. I feel like the Carter 1 was, I'm not a little kid anymore. But the Carter 2, best rapper alive, fireman, come on.
And the way I look at it, basically to me, I look at it impact-wise. So it's basically the Wu-Tang solos and Mobb Deep versus the South. And look, I don't want to take anything away from the Infamous because I know that album is like Library of Congress album for New York. Like that album is a God tier album. And Only Built for Cuban Links was absolutely huge. It was a great album. Takao was a great album, even though it wasn't 95. But everything that got started from 05, like what came after the Carter 2 was the Carter 3. What came after Trill was Trill 2. Ludacris was doing stuff after this. Like, man, nah, I gotta go with you. I gotta go with you on this one. I really do think 05, and I know we're both Southern rap fans, so we're gonna be a little bit biased, but I just think it was
shirt. And I'm still telling you it was 05.
It opened up too much. The 05 too much.
I feel like Houston alone put 05 on their back. When you look at the solo projects from Wall, Thug, Jones, and Chameleonaire, that introduced you to a different sound of Houston from facing the Ghetto Boys. The reason why New York has a hard time with the argument for the South is the South constantly interjects youth into motion.
It's also,
and they do it in a way that if they can't fit in this bubble, they just make another bubble. They don't try to do it better than whoever was, they just literally make another bubble.
it's also bigger and more diversified. So even when the New York sound splits away from the typical New York sound, it's still heavily influenced by the New York sound. New Orleans could break away from Atlanta and not be all that influenced by it when the final product comes out.
And for you New Yorkers, we know the boroughs are different. We know Queens is different than Staten
I've been there.
Island. Harlem is different than up to we look, we get it. And I agree. I agree when I say Harlem and Queens artists don't sound alike. I agree when I say Staten Island and Manhattan, I get it. And I agree. What we're saying is collectively, New York still sounds like New York with smaller pockets.
Let's move on to the Shop Top 5. The Shop 5, baby. We're going to talk about just a little discussion to see if we can't figure out the top 5 greatest Southern MCs. And I think we might have a little healthy disagreement on this one. BA, I think probably the best way to do this is just to start at 1 and go down, because it might be harder to start at 5. So let's start at 1, and I'll let you start. Who do you think is the number 1? And any criteria you want, just explain your pick. So I'm not giving you any criteria to pick it, just your top 5, and just explain your pick. So who you got at number 1?
There's lots of arguments, but the only criteria that matters to me for who's number 1 in the South, it's Scarface. There is no argument. Here is my criteria. We have kings of the South. Nobody argued with him calling himself the king of the South. We have pimps of the South. Scarface is, if Wu-Tang was a movement, Scarface would be considered the Mecca of the South. Anything that touches the root of Scarface gets you grounded in not just Houston hip hop, but Southern hip hop.
All right, let me take this in a different direction because I disagree. I put some thought into this. I went with number 1, Lil Wayne. I'm going with Lil Wayne because the way I looked at it is, out of everybody I consider, Lil Wayne has done the most music-wise. Between the Dedication series, the No Ceiling series, and the Carter series, Lil Wayne has done more music-wise than anybody else. He's sold more records. He's been everywhere. He's been global. He's pretty much got a spot on ESPN. He did his skateboard thing. Like, he has been everywhere in ways that other rappers in the South haven't. Now, I will say there are not plenty of times, but there are times it bothers me to put him at number 1 when there are times that I have to go, what the fuck are you talking about in some of his songs? But just based on accomplishments, I put him at number 1. So I'll go ahead and start. I'll go ahead and start with number 2. My number 2 is Scarface. I went with Scarface because Scarface is the most respected MC in the South. He got his influences from Chuck D and Ice Cube. And I just think that he is the Nas, the Chuck D, the Ice Cube of the South. And so you definitely deserve a spot on the top of the list for that. So who you got at number 2?
I actually have your number 1 at number 2. Wayne is almost identical to what you said to put him at 1. To me, outside of Bud and Face, the longevity of Wayne is the LeBron James of Southern hip hop. He came in so young, and then after he jumped on the scene, the expectation of what he could become got so high. When I go back and I listen to The Block is Hot, I listen to Get Off the Corn, I listen to The Fireman, which is still one of my favorite songs, Hit 'Em Up. I'm in awe of the youthfulness and the skill, right? Now, I'm not comparing myself to Lil Wayne, but at 17, I would be afraid to for that dude to be standing across the stage, and I had to do something with him at 17.
All right, who you got at number 3?
3, I'm going Respect first. He is, by all stretch of the means, the greatest lyricist in Southern hip hop history, arguably top 3 to 5 lyricist of all time, none other than Andre 3 Stacks. And the reason why I put him at 3 is, to be honest, I'm petty. Because although his merits need no introduction, they need no arguing, he owes 50% of his career to his partner. Because Outkast as a whole was just an entity that you couldn't really argue, and they were the yin and the yang of each other perfectly.
Man,
that's the reason I got him at 3.
This is fucked up. I wanted to argue about this, but that's what I got at 3 too, man. God damn. I put him at 3 for that reason. Pure skill was just what I wrote by his. And I'm with you. He is top 3, top 5 lyricist all time outside of the South to me. And I put him at 3 for the same reasons you did. The pettiness, but for a different reason. It was the flute and the piano album. That was the reason that I put you at number 3, is because you did 4 absolute classics and then you handed me that bullshit. I'm glad you're having fun. I
cannot get over the fact of him sitting on a washing machine in an Asian country playing the flute. That image and the image of him in the piano colored suit with the piano on the back like a backpack, those 2 images alone.
It's gotten to a point where Andre is almost too different for me. I liked him because he was so different from everybody in hip hop, but at a certain point, I think you leaning into this a little too hard, bro.
Hip hop's Jimi Hendrix.
All right, so number 4, we might match up on this one again, but I got to go with my man, Bernie Freeman.
Oh, you going with Bun? You going with Bun at 4?
I'm going with Bun at number 4 because Bun's been around just as long as Scarface has. They had some trouble with their early label because they signed with Jive at first.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of trouble with the good old Jay Prince helped them get out of with a couple of phone calls. But what UGK did as a group, they lived up to their name. Like they were underground until Big Pimpin. They were an underground group that people knew nationwide. Like you weren't gonna get UGK songs on the radio in New York, but hip hop heads in New York and especially on the West Coast, they knew who he was. We knew who he was in the Southeast. So I definitely had to go with Bun B at number 4. Who'd you go with?
My number 4 is not Bun. It could have been. My number 4 is really gonna shock you because it's a cop out, but at the same time, I'm gonna try to make it make sense. My number 4 is T.I. and Ludacris.
Okay.
So
cheater.
When I think of 2 sides of a coin, that's them. They were 2 sides of the same. Their beef for a short amount of time got more attention and produced some of the best music that Atlanta put out in a 2-year span. And it did not turn violent. They're in the same city. They're close enough to really get at each other, but they were mature enough. Again, shout out Jay Prince.
Hey, why does this start? What are the more stories we tell? Jay Prince starts to feel like the Jim Brown of the rap game.
Hey,
like whenever there's beef in Hollywood, whenever there was beef,
whenever there's political problems, they call Farrakhan. Whenever the South got problems, they call Jay Prince. Like Jay gets involved. But I couldn't put one over the other because if they were a group, they would be Outkast. They're that yin and yang. Their identities carried them to superstardom simultaneously. It's one thing when you had Magic and Bird, you're looking at the person who is keeping you from winning every day. You're checking stats, you're checking numbers. That was them to me.
Oh, he had 28 last night? All right.
Okay, all right. So for that reason, I went with the both of them at 4.
My 5, I went chalk. I might have mixed them up, but number 5 is the Fat Mac 8 Ball.
Ooh,
because
I like that.
And it's because the simple reason that he's made so much good music. Now, he does have to give a lot of his credit to MJG. MJ. He has to give a lot of credit to MJG because MJG is another great rapper. And they work so well together, just like you're talking about T.I. and Luda, just like Outkast. They're so different, but they fit together really well. And to define a sound for your city, to put a city on the map that people aren't really looking for, and to be able to keep it on the map, that's something special, man. 8Ball's got to be one of the best rappers in the South to me. So who you got as your last one?
Started with the Mecca, right? I'm going to end with the Mecca. It's Bun B, without a doubt. Now, Ball and Killer Mike might have been the only other two people I would have considered in this spot. Mm-hmm. One, I've said many a times on this show that Killer Mike does not get the flowers he deserves.
No.
For his lineage. I'm not even going to say his career, because the man is hip hop. Right?
Yeah, like the Run the Jewels era was like the third tier of his career. That was like his third wave.
Run the Jewels. I don't, okay, but I go with Bun, and I go with Bun at 5 because that's where I separate UGK and just focus on Bun. And I feel like when you start off with a face in a top 5, you have to bring that thing full circle. And the only thing that can connect that dot for me is Bun B. So even though he might be 4 spots, he's not really, because it's 365 right here, if you caught it.
So there it is, y'all. That's the Shop 5 for the best Southern rappers that are out there. Y'all put y'all's down in the comments. Give me your 5 and let me see what they are.
1, 2.
All right, y'all. That's going to do it for us. That's this episode of Grown Man Bars. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe every time. We really need that. We are also on your podcast, so go listen to those, and you can hear this without having to look at my face, even though it's a pretty ass face to be looking at anyway. So
hit the like.
Next week, we will be talking about the mixtape era, and BA is already excited. So
Nice.
Join us on next Friday. We drop every Friday. Join us then, and we'll catch y'all next time. So for Grown Man Bars, I'm your man Chad. That's BA.